Hi, my name's Jason Kleiman. Today I'm presenting on Via Verde, also known as the Greenway, residential development, affordable residential development in the Bronx, the South Bronx of New York City. This was a development that was born and created starting in 2006, finally completed in 2012, but it was the genesis of a competition, actually two levels of competition that was part of the New Housing New York Legacy Project. Started in 2006, culminated with being awarded to the Jonathan Rose Companies and Phipps Houses as a combo developer to come in from the long legacy development side through Jonathan Rose and their long track record of success in the Phipps Houses, which really was focused on the development and management of affordable housing throughout local communities in greater New York. This project really at the core of it was a collaboration. It was a study of how you can bring together sustainability and affordability in the same development. This was really brought together through the city of New York by Mayor Bloomberg at the time because there was a lack of affordable housing, and this project kicked it off. And they took advantage of a number of the city initiatives that were in place from the mayor. This turned out to be a combination of public and private, which I'll get into a little bit more detail. But this was a combination of private developers along with public financing. So the Via Verde development. The development details, it's in the South Bronx in New York in the Melrose neighborhood, which is a middle of the road, blue collar neighborhood that has a lot of very old buildings in it, but has a lot of history and really has a lot of interest behind it. Again, this project was created in completed in 2012, residential, mixed income, focused on affordable housing. Total of 222 units, just under 300,000 total square feet, but that also included some commercial, which was a pharmacy and medical site for a local clinic. A total of 71 units that were for sale. So co-op units that were focused on low income, middle value, but still for sale as co-ops under the co-op regulations. And then 151 for rent units. So a total of 222 units. The commercial site was 7,500 square feet, and the big POW on this one, and one of the big design features, which we'll get into, was the green roof, which was almost 40,000 square feet, so fairly large. It covered the entire top of this sprawling development. What was the premise? Why did they do this in the first place? One, there was a lack of affordable housing. They needed to figure out a new way to put this together. And there was this idea that sustainability and affordability can live cohesively in one development. Just because you put in green and sustainable development ideals doesn't mean that they cannot be affordable and that it can't go to low income or mixed income housing. This was an idea to bring together public and private scenarios. So governments, grantors, public organizations, and then private developers. If they could put together a plan of action, this could be a showcase to show how public and private can work together to really collaborate and create a very successful project. The premise was also about green innovation. They wanted to incorporate green technologies, green methodologies, green materials, recycling, and anything that was consistent with lead design, the enterprise green communities. They wanted to live by all of these guidelines. So part of the big premise here was they could do all of this, create it in an affordable atmosphere, but still bring real green innovation to the table. Also, they wanted to incorporate low-tech solutions. So that meant south-facing windows. It meant windows in multiple directions, so you could get cross breezes. So you don't have to force air through these things. Maybe there's cogeneration. Maybe there are ways that we can bring water back into the building without having to pump it in from a third-party source. Maybe this can be regenerative in some way. But there was a real push to figure out some low-tech solutions, which they incorporated here. Then the last piece was there was a firm belief that they could limit bureaucracy and actually get the city and all the organizations within the city to work together to create very quick movement, quick approvals, and actually get this off the ground without facing undue hurdles. The goals. They wanted to promote affordability within the green world. So they wanted to show that they could actually build something that was truly green and environmentally friendly and regenerative, but actually make it affordable so it could be after mixed income. They were looking to reshape the idea of density. healthy urban living, and they wanted to focus on just healthy living in general. So there were design features like keeping the staircases close to the elevators, so it would inspire people to walk instead of always taking the elevators. They wanted to create local clinics so they could give the community access to healthcare. They wanted one of the big pushes was there was an epidemic of childhood asthma and obesity. So part of the design philosophy behind this building was to create this environment that was focused on healthy living in any way, shape, or form. Finally, there was this idea that they wanted to bring together the community. One, just from a spatial perspective, this site was built. This development was built on a site that had been unused for nearly 30 years. It was an old railroad site, had some remediation issues, but the communities on either side of this site literally didn't touch each other, couldn't see each other, and really didn't communicate. This was a way to bring everybody together in that local community. So there was really an idea of bringing community alignment and community connection. Fill empty spaces, get people talking, get people coordinating, cohabitating. It creates a more cohesive neighborhood. Sustainability and construction. Let's talk about the design the design elements, the green design elements. This was meant to be a fully integrated green project, sustainable project, not just a list of green attributes. They wanted to make this a truly cohesive, fully integrated project. So all the design features were meant to work together and actually incorporate the tenants into this from the building to use all this and incorporate it into their daily lives. So it's meant to be fully integrated. The green rooftop, photovoltaic panels, so solar panels, low VOC materials, indoor air quality systems, rainwater capture systems. So the green roof that they were building, the water that they needed to keep all the plants alive and get all the tenants could actually work with, the water was actually recaptured from rainwater that fell onto the building. So it's regenerative. You know, you don't have to go to a third party in order to get all this. It's actually all incorporated into the building itself. In-unit temperature and HVAC sensors. This was meant to be something that could be regulated from a larger group instead of asking individual tenants to set their temperature up or down or to pay attention to things. There was really a way to actually manage this on behalf of the whole group. Again, to create efficiencies and lower costs. High efficiency Energy Star appliances. Seems like a no-brainer, but they incorporated it throughout. Low-tech systems, again, they wanted to make this easy for people to open their windows and get airflow through their units and actually make it livable, whether it's in the winter months or the summer months. There was low-tech ways in order to create interior air quality. The impact, again, it's all about community connection, improving the neighborhood, creating a healthy and active lifestyle, getting the tenants involved in and getting their participation. It doesn't just happen naturally. They have to be part of the equation. There's the whole idea of green payback and lowering the lifetime building costs. Part of what they were doing was using systems and technologies and materials that actually could pay back. And it's not just that they were cheaper, but in many cases they lowered consumption. For example, the solar panels, not only did it lower costs, but it actually lowered the consumption of normal energy, the baseline energy, by 15 to 20%. So truly regenerative in many ways. And overall increased efficiency and lowered costs for the building. The investment, where'd the money come from? The developers actually put in some money, although most of the money came from public sources. This was a public-private partnership. So most of the cash and the debt financing came from the HDC and the HPD, two city organizations that were very focused on affordable housing. So a $98 million project, 80% of it was funded by those two organizations. Along with that, there was municipal involvement with tax credits, grants, and bureaucracy. So there are a number of credits that came into play, grants from more than 19 organizations that were part of this whole thing. And as far as bureaucracy, they formed one of the big takeaways here. They formed the Joint Review Committee, which was really just a culmination of all these local organizations and approval groups that had a say as to whether or not things could happen. They came together specifically for this development in order to get the approvals done quickly, approve any variances that needed to happen, and get this thing to the finish line as quickly as possible. And it was a huge win. There was some question about whether or not it could be replicated, but from all the reviews, it seemed like that Joint Review Committee turned out to be a source of relationships that went on for years after. So it was a very positive situation. Risks, there's always risks. There's brownfield site risk on this one. This was built on a 30-year site that hadn't been touched. There was some remediation that had to happen. There were some chemicals. There were some things that had to be capped. It had to be taken care of. That was a huge risk from the environmental side and it had to be done properly. There's a pledge to the local community that certain things are going to be done, whether it's local sourcing, using workers from the local area, using products from the local area, materials from the local area, recycling. There are plenty of design and green commitments that were made, and so the developer actually had to make sure that they could truly live up to everything they'd put out there. There are grants, credits, and financing that was all based on these design commitments. Much of that could be pulled back. And in certain situations, if they didn't live up to it, there's actually some legal ramifications, and it can be punitive. There can be a lot of fees and fines that go along with this. So there's a huge risk on that side. The funding simply could go away if they didn't live up to the design specs that they had put together from the very beginning. Timing and delivery, they had made some huge commitments as far as how quickly things were going to go. Now, in this situation, the project had taken years to be put together, so they were pretty confident about the timing, and they put together that the review committee with the city, so they were pretty confident that they could get that done. Still a risk, though. There's always the risk of public perception, and making sure that you live up to the commitments that you had made from the beginning, and that affects the risk for your legacy and your ability to do these developments in the future. So there were risks. One of the biggest risks was the idea that they needed the tenants in this process to really buy in and participate in how this building was going to function. It was meant to be this green facility that incorporated health and created outdoor areas for the tenants to take advantage of and work within green spaces and communicate and cohabitate. But if the tenants didn't buy into it and participate, it could really impact the success of the overall project. The conclusion, I call it the green conclusion. Where did we get to with this? Well, number one, the conclusion is that affordability and sustainability can, in fact, coexist. It is possible to bring affordability and sustainability together in one place. Next, affordability does not have to equate to low quality. This design turned out to be an amazing design. It looked like a high-end market rate development, whether it's be rental or for sale. Materials that were used with balconies, with interiors, with appliances, with outdoor spaces, with the systems that were incorporated. This was truly a high-end, high-quality development, and it was done at affordable prices. And it met the needs of that low-income and mixed-income affordable tenant base. So affordability does not have to equate to low quality. Finally, the winning combination, the big takeaway from this, public and private can work together. And in this situation, it is the reason why this was a success, and the financing and the funding actually came together. If the public hadn't have helped and coordinated with the private groups to put this development together, this may not have happened. Access to cash may not have happened. Access to financing may not have happened through traditional means and private banks. So public and private was a huge factor in this. Next, collaboration creates success and goodwill, whether it was the city, private developers, public groups, local organizations, local ward bosses, the mayor. Everybody had to coordinate on this. Everybody had to collaborate. And because they did, because they had a vision to work together in this situation, the success was there, and they created goodwill out in the market. So collaboration was a key. Next, bureaucracies can be overcome. Just because there are city bureaucracies in a city the size of New York does not mean that bureaucracies have to be in the way of every development and every moving piece. Bureaucracies can be overcome if it's coordinated together with all the stakeholder groups. Finally, the success is really in the numbers. Occupancy still today is virtually 100% with a waiting list. And resales of the for sale units, they've only gone up in value, even though they're not full market rate value. They started at 130,000 on average per unit. They're up over 300,000 today. So it's kept up with inflation and has shown the overall numbers to be a very big success. And finally, this is a showcase. It's a showcase in feasibility. This can be done, and frankly, it can be replicated in multiple markets, large markets, urban markets around the country. So this, at the end of the day, they created a project that met LEED Gold certification. Created affordable housing, created quality, created long-term sustainability, created a bit of regenerative use, and turned a blighted site in a tough neighborhood into a success where people can live and breathe every single day and live happy and healthy lifestyles. That is the Via Verde project. My name is Jason Kleiman. Thank you very much.